What's up guys, Ron Purdy here from Techno Buffalo, and this last weekend I got the chance to go up to Lake Arrowhead with three very cool gadgets. Number one being the Razer Blade Stealth. It's their brand new Ultrabook, the Chevy Volt, which is a car, so it's a bit of a bigger gadget, and the Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge, which we reviewed last week. This time around I wanted to take a deeper look at the camera on the Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge, and better yet, compare it to what is called one of the best cameras on the market in terms of phones, the iPhone 6s. Right out the gate, we're rocking very similar specs. 12 megapixel cameras on the back for both and 5 megapixels on the front. However, things are a little bit different optically. The iPhone has a 29mm f2.2 lens, whereas the Samsung has a 26mm f1.7. So a little bit wider focal length on the Samsung and a little bit wider aperture as well. We also see this on the front, where the iPhone is rocking an f2.2 31mm lens and the Samsung is rocking the f1.7 22mm lens, and that 22mm is a huge deal to me. It's an ultra-wide selfie camera, which Samsung has now had for 2 generations of phones, and it's hands down one of my favorite features of their phones. It really changes the way you use Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, any of your selfie taking needs. I'm a huge fan of this ultra-wide camera. Hopping over to the back, other than their 3mm focal difference, which makes the Samsung lens a little bit wider, it's very hard to tell these cameras apart. Optically, and the way the software runs through it, looks extremely similar photo to photo. As you can see side by side, you really have to nitpick to find the differences. Something I did notice, however, is that the iPhone tends to dig a little deeper in the shadows and pull out a little more detail, whereas the Samsung might just crush those to black. But on the other side, the Samsung does tend to do a better job rolling off highlights that have clipped into white, whereas it's a little more jarring on the iPhone. Now, if we're going to continue nitpicking on optical differences, I did notice that the Samsung images were coming out a little bit sharper than the iPhones. This was mainly because of the in-camera sharpening that happens via software on the Samsung, so it's a bit of a catch-22. The images do look sharper on the phone and on a bigger screen, but if you were to print those images or blow them up, you would most likely begin to see some artifacting. The biggest differences you're going to find here are the UI, the shooting mode, and how to get to the camera. With Samsung, the double tap of the home button to getting you to the camera is one of my favorite ways to get to a camera of any phone. It's super quick, feels very natural, feels very intuitive, and the camera pops up extremely quickly. In addition, while iOS is still stuck with their tried and true simple is the way to go camera app, and I know you can get third-party apps before people start going crazy, I do prefer Samsung's app because it is simple, but it does give you a ton of shooting modes, and best of all is their Pro mode. Now, if anybody is trying to replace a DSLR where the portability is key, they're going to love this. You get full manual control just like you do on a really high-end point-and-shoot or a DSLR. Control ISO, white balance, shutter speed, and anything and everything in between. One feature I do love is the Selective Focus. Now, you have to hold the camera there for a bit, and what it does is it analyzes the background and the foreground, focusing on both while you're taking the picture, and then it goes in and adds a little bit of extra software blur to the background to create the illusion of a super shallow depth of field. The technique works really well. However, it does bring me to one of my gripes with the Samsung. It is the autofocus. While it is fast, it is a bit schizophrenic. Where the iPhone autofocus seems a little more zen, a little more meditative, it decides what it wants to do and then does it well, the Samsung autofocus is kind of jarring and just skips around a lot. You really notice this in video when you're moving from foreground to background items. Panoramic modes in both phones work well. However, I did feel it worked a little bit better on the S7 Edge, purely because Samsung allows you to do panoramic photos while the phone is in landscape and portrait. Apple still has this really annoying thing where they force you to have the phone in portrait to create a panorama. I have no clue why they haven't added a horizontal panoramic feature. It's beyond me, but kudos to Samsung for having it. Low light is always an interesting one when it comes to mobile phones because the sensors are so small they can only be so good. That being said, with the new larger pixels, the S7 Edge does much better than the S6 and even seems to edge out the iPhone 6s. So that is pretty much it. Those are really my thoughts on both cameras and both phones. Now, of course, there are a ton of other more in-depth features on the S7 Edge and the iPhone that we didn't really cover. Of course, you can get third-party apps to use the camera on the iPhone. Optically, I think they're super close. That being said, I do prefer the S7 Edge because of all the additional features that Samsung packages it with and how well they seem to work. I just like having that option there. And a fun little bonus feature is because of the waterproofing on the S7, it's practically a GoPro replacement. But with that being said, click the link down below to see the full res gallery of both phones and give me your thoughts in the comments below. I'm very curious to hear. Give us a thumbs up if you like this video and hit that subscribe button for more content like this, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.